Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and happy Friday. Today is another sit down video, but this time we're going to be talking about my entire fitness journey from start up until now and what it is that I'm currently kind of working on. I don't want to make this video long, so we're going to jump right into it. But first, coffee. Guys, I made my own. It's a little decaf because I actually already had one this morning when I went to the gym. But look, I put a spooky sticker so that I can pretend that I, got this at a cafe. And then I added a little bit of protein in here. So it's technically a decaf protein cold brew. Anyways, I jotted down some bullet points in my little Harry Potter notebook here. So I'm just going to kind of go through them. That way I don't miss anything. I will try my best to insert clips and photos on the side here when I'm referring to a certain time in my life. It was kind of hard. I was looking back and I couldn't find a lot of them. Hopefully the lighting's not too bad, but let's get started. So taking back to the very beginning, okay, when I was about 7-8 years old, it was when I first joined, I guess, like a sports team. I did soccer from, I want to say, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. So I did that for about 3 years. I played in a co-ed team. I liked it until I was the last girl on the team, and then I was like, you know what? Help. So my dad had wanted me to keep playing, so he moved me over to an all-girls team, which I ended up honestly hating more than the co-ed. So I just called it quits there on my soccer career. After that, I kind of chilled for a sec, and then middle school came and I saw the cheerleaders. I was like, I want to do that, but you weren't able to try out until 7th and 8th grade. So I had a year. I was like, I'm going to get as much experience as I can so I can make the team. I joined gymnastics. I did gymnastics only for a few months, to be honest. And then I found like an outside of school cheer team that me and my best friend joined to prep us for making the team the next year, which did happen. I made the cheer team at my middle school, and then that allowed me to make the team for my high school and be in cheer my entire high school career, guys. So that was a lot of fun. Honestly, cheer is what really helped me lose a lot of like the baby weight. I don't know if you call that, or like preteen weight, because in middle school is probably my heaviest. I remember I was around 120, 25, being 12, 13 years old. If I remember correctly, I would wear like size 7 bottoms, and cheer really helped me lose the weight. By high school, I was at a pretty normal, healthy weight. As I mentioned, for my entire high school career, cheer was life, okay? That is how I got, I guess, my exercise, because I remember our coach would make us condition on certain days. We would obviously be cheering. We would go to games. So that kept me pretty active. And you guys all know that when we're young, it's kind of easier to stay fit. So I was fluctuating here and there, but it wasn't like a big deal. However, I do want to mention that I did end up having to be a flyer my freshman and sophomore year because I was literally the shortest girl on the team, and I kind of sucked at basing. So that put a lot of pressure on me to stay small. I remember weighing about 105 pounds by the end of freshman year, and I just felt like this pressure to stay small. I've always been a thicker legged girly, so I remember feeling super self-conscious because the other girls that were flyers were really tall and lean, and I felt like I looked so different from them, and I felt like I was heavier than them, which honestly, looking back now, I probably wasn't. I was probably the lightest, but I didn't know. You can say body dysmorphia kind of started then. That's a whole video in itself, because I feel like girls nowadays so much body dysmorphia at such a younger age, which is so sad, because I feel like I didn't even think about my body until way later in high school. Fast forward, I graduate high school, I join my college, shout out Cal State Fullerton, and it is at this time that I'm like, okay, do I want to try out for cheer? Think I went, but like didn't really end up trying out. I felt a little lost when it came to fitness because I had a routine for about 6 years now, doing cheer, and now here I am at school, not on the cheer team, not on any sport, and I had never touched foot in a gym. Don't even know how or who convinced me, but I ended up getting a 24-hour fitness membership. And at the time as well, I had just gotten my first job at a shoe store, and the 24-hour fitness was literally like right across. So it was really convenient because I remember I would go into work, clock out, drive across the street, get a workout in, and then go home. I joined with my friend, and we would primarily use our membership for the classes that the gym offered. And then a lot of the times when we would go in by ourselves, we would do a little bit of cardio. We would go into the room and use like the little barbells they had there, but we did not know what we were doing. And honestly, we would just kind of mess around in there. I have a lot of videos of us just lip singing and dancing, no sense of a plan. I want to say around sophomore year, college got a little more busy. You know, we had more classes, got a little stressful, and it hit me a little late, but I think I did go through like the freshman 15 just a little bit later. I'll try to insert a photo of what I looked like during this time, but I do remember being super uncomfortable in my body. I knew I had gained some weight and I didn't like it. So at this time, this is hilarious, but I bought the Shaun T Insanity. I'm sure you guys have heard of it if you're around my age, and I would do this shit every day. Okay, so the plan is I think 60 days and you're supposed to do it, and it's a ton of jumping, a ton of plyometrics, cardio, whatever, right? I fell for the trap that if I just did Insanity, I would literally be a skinny queen by the end of the 2 months. But keep in mind, I had no idea about nutrition. So I was doing all these Insanity crazy ass videos, but I was not eating correctly. I would just eat literally what my mom would make for me, a lot of just Mexican dishes. I obviously saw a little bit of improvements, and I feel like mentally I felt a lot better because I was sweating out everything and like all these endorphins were making me feel good. But looking back now, I'm like, I looked pretty much the same, and if anything, I just ended up being, I hate the term skinny fat, but literally skinny fat. I had no muscle. The second that I would stop doing Insanity, I would just gain it back. And I do want to mention before I get into the next part that I've never been, luckily, anyone who's ever really hated working out or dreaded the idea of working out. I think it just stems from me starting sports really early. So I always enjoyed it. I never felt like it was a chore to go to the gym. I always liked going. I've always had pretty good conditioning and endurance, so cardio for me felt good and I didn't mind it. So I will say that helped me a lot, because I know a lot of people really don't like the gym. They dread the thought of working out. So I think that's good to know as well, coming from me. But anyways, so after doing like a bunch of Insanity, I just remember like the last 2 years of college, I was working a new job. I was trying to get all my classes done, internships. So the gym was kind of pushed aside. I didn't stop working out. I would just do a lot of home workouts wherever or whenever I could. I would sometimes redo Insanity, but I wouldn't do it like to the bone. I would just kind of do it whenever I could, sporadically. And then it comes 2019, I ended up taking 5 years to graduate instead of 4. So I was a little heavier than the year prior, I remember, and looking back now, I can totally see the difference. I'll put photos here of my graduation, but I had gained a little bit of weight again, but I did feel this weight off of my shoulders because I had finally finished school, and now it was kind of like time to look for a job, but I was still interning at a radio station. So that kind of had me hopeful. Camera's back on. Okay, so as I was saying, I graduate, I'm still interning, so I have hopes that I might get this job. Things slowed down a little bit, so one of my friends tells me about EOS, semi-new, but I hadn't heard of it, and it was pretty close to my house. And because 24 hours was getting a little pricey to renew, I was like, fuck it, let's try this other gym out. And I would go upstairs and just try out 1 or 2 of the machines. Then one day, my friend Sachin, shout out, I remember him kind of introducing me a little bit to weight training, but I was kind of like intimidated. I don't really remember how exactly it happened, but I do remember that I just somehow ended up over by the dumbbells, okay, with him, and he would teach me here and there just a little bit of things. And like I mentioned, prior to me joining the gym, I was doing a lot of just random workouts, whether that was Insanity or stuff from YouTube. So I had found Gabby, Cheyenne, and I think it's Taylor KT, if I remember correctly. I found these 2 girls and I was so impressed by their bodies. I was like, I want to look like that. Like, that is how I want to look. I want to look toned and sculpted, which I had never been able to achieve, and I didn't know why. I would honestly just blame it on my genetics and be like, well, not to blame my mom or anything, but she would always be like, yeah, like, you're good. You're not gonna look like that because you're built differently. To this day, she always tells me, she's like, wow, you really proved me wrong. She's like, I don't know anything about fitness, so she's like, I never thought that you could look the way you looked. But anyways, getting back on topic. So I was following these girls. I found them on YouTube. They were lifting. So I was like, okay. And then through that, I found Anthony, aka Booty King. I'm sure some of you girls have heard of him before. And I bought his program. I think his program was like a PDF and it had videos of how to do it. So I don't even know if I was doing it right. I probably wasn't. I just remember we needed bands and a couple dumbbells, and I would do it with my friend Sarah. And that is kind of how I slowly started to push myself to get to the weights on my own without my other friend. I don't even think I finished Booty King's program, but along the way, I also was finding obviously other influencers who were posting fitness content, and there came Chrissy motherfreaking Chella. I love her to this day. Y'all know, if you guys watch my videos, I love that girl. I will always support Underactive, and I will always thank her for where I am today, because she was my official coach when I decided to get her app. Her app I've had literally since 2019, and I still have it to this day. I always renew the annual membership, even if I'm not directly training off of her. I just love to be on there and still support her, and it doesn't hurt to have it because you can always switch up your routine. And she has a bunch of coaches on the Evolve You app, which at the time was called Tone and Sculpt. She was my coach. I got her app and I started doing her Build, I believe it's called Build program. I was introduced to a lot of movements I had never done before. Because I had my friend Sarah with me, I felt a little more confident because she was with me. I was on a roll, guys. I was back on a routine. I was super disciplined, consistent. The food part I would say was like didn't really pay attention to how much protein or carbs or fats. I was like, macros were foreign to me, but I would try and eat as healthy as I could. You guys know newbie gains are real. So since my body was not used to that form of training, guys, I saw so much improvement within the first few months. I started to see my biceps come in. I thought I was so strong. Looking back now, it's kind of funny because they weren't that big, but obviously it's something new. So you start to become almost like obsessed with the results. So I was seeing my quads come in, my biceps. I started to lean out, and I was like, wait, this is literally working. My camera keeps trying to stop recording, so here we go again. But I'm feeling myself, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling confident. And then people start to kind of notice my physical changes. I start getting a few compliments here and there, people saying that they really like my body or that I look really good. So I'm like, okay, you know, I'm really happy. But then COVID comes. Of course, all the gyms close. They think it's only going to be 2 weeks. The 2 weeks turns into a month, then 3 months, then 6, then a whole fucking year. And I am so upset because finally seeing the results I've been wanting for so long, and then boom, it's taken away from me. So I feel like I'm back in square one because now I can't go to the gym and I don't have dumbbells at home. Everything at the store is sold out. All I have are 2 15-pound dumbbells, 1 10-pound, and I believe 1 5. I would literally look up on YouTube 30-minute leg day, 10-minute, I don't know, abs, and that is what I would do with the dumbbells that I had. I was so determined to maintain what I had built, and it was there that I actually found Gabby Cheyenne's hit videos, I think. And honestly, I was feeling pretty good about myself. I don't remember having any like negative thoughts. I was also not working, so spending a lot of time at home, which meant a lot of boredom snacking, but I was more mindful of it and I was able to kind of maintain. I did probably gain a little bit back towards the middle, but I was consistent with my workouts. I was no longer skipping them. I remember at the end of the year, towards October, EOS opened up again, but you had to do reservations online, and they had only opened the gym to be outdoor in the parking lot on the rooftop. And best believe, as soon as I heard that, I ran back to the gym. And I remember I would take Sarah with me, we would make our reservations, and we were back on routine. I think Chrissy had a second program at that point, so I started doing that one. And by end of November, I was looking so good. Looking back now, I'm like, wow, I was on a roll. I was headed towards the right way. I think a lot of the time I spent at home during COVID too, I learned a lot more about how important protein intake was in order to build muscle. So I was making sure to eat my protein, whether that was from like shake. I did a lot of shakes in the beginning, a lot of processed protein, but it was working for me because I had never gave my body that much protein. So finally feeling so good. And you can tell in a lot of my videos and TikToks that I was making back then, I just remember deep down feeling really confident finally. So everything was well. And then I still remember this freaking day, December 11th, 2021. No, 2020. End of 2020. I had survived not getting freaking Rona because I was obviously not at work. I was mostly inside. But I ended up getting it through Carlos because he was working at Chick-fil-A and someone at his job had it. So he got it and then he gave me it. It was horrible. And tell me why. I thought because I was sick and I had the Rona, I had a quarantine, I was gonna lose all my progress if I didn't do anything. So you know what I did? I fucking went outside and I ran with the virus in me. If I could go back and slap me, I would. Everything went downhill from there. I ended up getting like so-called long COVID because when I tried going back to the gym after I was good to go, I kept getting chest pain out of nowhere and I was freaking the fuck out. So I remember going to cardiologists, going to the doctors. They would do EKGs on me. They didn't know what was wrong because everything would come back fine. They would tell me it was anxiety and I was like, but it's not. Like I feel something. Anyways, long story short, they tell me I need to cut down on exercise for a little bit. And at this point, I'm kind of like, fuck, I do, because this is scarier than me losing my muscle. So what I tell myself is, if I'm not gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna eat so fucking healthy, hone in on my nutrition if I'm not gonna work out. But keep in mind, I had no idea how to properly nourish my body. So what I thought was healthy was actually so bad. I ended up cutting out, unknowingly, carbs and fats. I thought that would make me fat. So protein was literally like my main priority and only priority. And of course, within a month, you can see the difference in photos. I'll try to find them here, but I was losing weight rapidly. February came, I got 2 periods that month and I thought that was strange, but I was like, that's weird and whatever. And then came March and I actually missed my period then. But I was like, oh, well, I had 2 in February, so it must be because of that. April came, no period. May came, no period. It wasn't until July that I had my yearly checkup that I mentioned it to my doctor. And I remember she kind of had me run her through what I had changed, if I had lost any weight, gone through any stressful events. And I was like, well, I did have COVID. And at the time, too, a lot of girls were having missing periods after COVID or the COVID vaccine. So that was in the air, and I thought that was a reason why, because I did get my shots after, or my vaccines. But she was like, no, I think you need to eat more carbs. And I was like, okay, sure. Why? And I remember that was the first time I ever heard the word hypothalamic amenorrhea, but I was so deep into this obsessive fitness life. At this point, I was back at the gym, so I was now exercising and under eating. My body was under so much stress. I had the worst insomnia. I had breakouts all over my face. And then pushed that aside and I was like, well, I look really good. So ignored it for a whole other year. I do have work in like a couple minutes, so I need to hurry the fuck up and tell you guys the rest. But fast forward, I want to say like literally 2023 was when I finally was like, okay, what the fuck, this is weird, this is not normal. A lot of people were like, what the fuck, you don't have a period, like that's not healthy. So that kind of was like a shocker finally in my head, and I started looking it up and I saw all these things that made sense for me, and I was like, oh my gosh, like she was right. I decided to try to start, putting some weight back on me, and I didn't like how I looked. I was really lean, and although I was really confident because I had abs and I could finally wear like baggy jeans with like the smallest crop tops, putting them here, my hips were non-existent. I never had hips, but now they were literally like indented, and I hated that. I was so self-conscious. I remember Sarah taking photos of me in a bathing suit and me looking back at them, and I was like, what the fuck, like I don't look good. And then this is when I went, and I remember Chrissy Chella had her Honor Active birthday event in LA. Sarah and I drove out there, and obviously all the Honor athletes were there, and guys, they looked fucking phenomenal. And I didn't know who Kelly Matthews was, but I remember seeing her and her just kind of like standing out in the room. Super fucking strong, looked so damn good. And I didn't know who she was, but people were taking photos with her, so obviously I knew she was an athlete. I looked her up real quick. I was like, okay, her name's Kelly. I want a photo with her. She looks awesome. And I was so inspired that entire day because all these athletes that were around me and just normal girls looked so good and so strong. They genuinely inspired me. I went home that day and I was like, I don't want to be skinny. I want to be strong. I want to be and look like Kelly Matthews, like Brenda. I was just super fucking motivated to finally do the thing. I honestly think Kelly Matthews, that day, I literally followed her and I've been following her, and I joined Ladder that year because of her. I was like, I want her to be my coach. As it is the next day when I'm filming this, I ended up running late to work, so I had to stop. I threw on the same shirt I had on yesterday so that it kind of flows, and we have new coffee. We have some Dutch Bros today. It's really dark because it's cold brew, but it's really good. I was telling you guys about how when I saw Kelly Matthews at the Honor Active event, I was literally in awe, and that is all I thought about after the event. I was like, I want to look like her. I want to take up space and put on muscle. I'm like, why am I trying to shrink myself? I clearly don't like how I look, so let's do something about it. Let's switch it up. And that is exactly what I did. I started training more for strength, allowing myself to eat some of the so-called fear foods I had developed over the years that I was restricting so much. So that was in September, and by the end of the year I was at a good spot weight-wise, and I decided to take it even further. I love listening to Mind Pump. It's my favorite podcast of all time. I'll put it up here in case you guys haven't heard it, but they have their own programs that they run, and that is when I also decided to try MAPS Anabolic, which is only a 3-day split, with it being full body on all 3 days, with the intention of obviously minimizing the amount of stress I was putting on my body. I was on a roll. By March, I had gained about 10 pounds, and I was sitting at the same way I'm sitting at now, actually, around 115. So I was back to pre-COVID weight, but I decided to let the comments of family, friends get to me, and I know that they meant it out of a place of love, but I was starting to get comments like, oh my gosh, you look so good, you've gained weight, you're not skinny anymore, like, and I was like really triggered by those things, to be honest. I didn't like to hear that. I didn't want to hear that, and they obviously meant it in a good way, but I took it differently. And so this sadly caused me to stop progress and honestly kind of reverse. I slowly started to lose the weight again, and I was at like 108. So I finally decided a little bit before the second Honor Active birthday event, actually around September, I got a nutrition coach who guided me, put me into my first official reverse diet. So she calculated my macros for me and told me how much I was supposed to eat of each macronutrients. And I really liked it because I was still able to train, which mentally just kept me sane. I actually stuck with her for 6 months, only because it was a little pricey, but I learned so much through her, and I'm very grateful for that coach, because now I think I've got enough knowledge to kind of keep doing it myself, which kind of brings us to where I'm currently at. Since I've stopped training with her, I went back to Ladder, the app Ladder, still training with Kelly Matthews. I only do the workouts that work best for me. I skip our conditioning day, even though I do miss it. I miss jumping around the gym and doing a lot of plyos. Just focusing right now on primarily my legs and glutes. Obviously, with the reverse, I've put on a lot more body fat and muscle. There's days where I get really down on myself and I have the worst body dysmorphia in the world, but I try to dig deep and remind myself that it's okay, and I want to get to the best version of myself, and that is being 100% healthy. My body still doesn't trust me enough to give me back my period. I know that soon it will feel safe because I've been very consistent about feeding myself before the gym, after the gym, throughout my day. I'm constantly snacking. If I feel like I want something else, I have it. I'm also not gonna lie and tell you guys that I've completely gotten rid of all my fear foods. I don't allow myself to have the entire thing. For example, if I'm craving a cookie, I'm still like very hesitant about having the entire cookie. I will have like a piece of the cookie, but so much better at adding more fats into my diet without being afraid of them. Literally, I don't know where or why that's a thing. Fats aren't gonna make you fat. I literally had stopped eating cheese and like peanut butter, which if you know me, I'm a peanut butter girl. Like I could have peanut butter all day, every day. So it's really fun now to have a bunch of peanut butter in my toast and my oats, my shakes, and not fear it. With cheese, like I love snacking on some string cheese, which honestly 2 years ago I would have screamed at the thought of having that. Hopefully my body feels safe enough soon to start signaling to me that she is coming back. And I'm very, very thankful for the girls that I did find throughout this entire hell of a journey who do speak out about hypothalamic amenorrhea and how not to bandage the issue. I know a lot of doctors, in my case as well, have prescribed birth control in order to fix, the menstrual cycle and try to preserve as much bone loss that you could have. But at the end of the day, it's not the best option. It's not going to fix the root cause. It's just going to put a band-aid over it. And I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't found some of the girls that I did. I'll pop them up here below in case you want to follow them or check them out. So if you girls need any advice, if you're going through the same thing, please feel free to DM me or leave a comment. I know it's kind of personal, so you can always DM me on Instagram and I will reply to you. But just know you aren't alone. There's a bunch of other girlies who have gone through the same thing, are going through the same thing, and we can do it together. It's so funny because I look back and it's crazy to think that I started off just wanting to look toned and I was going in the right direction and it just all went south and I made the wrong decision to starve myself. So another reminder that that is not the answer. Food is fuel, and if I hadn't done that, I'd probably be in a much better spot than I am now. But that's okay because now I have this story to share and it only makes me more excited because it's like I have something to work for, because there comes a point in your journey where you're kind of like, all right, now what? Unless you're competing or doing something like that. So once I've restored my hormones and my period comes back and I sit at that weight for a good amount of time, I can always do a tiny mini cut the right way the next time and lean out but manage to keep my period throughout the process. I haven't edited the first half of this video, so I hope that it didn't run for too long and I didn't bore you guys, but please, please, please don't forget to subscribe to see more fitness and lifestyle content. The next video will be Sarah and I in San Francisco for the Halsey show, so make sure you are subscribed and I will see you guys in the next one.